Yours is in there, Ellen, yeah. Okay, some of them are missing. I accidentally dropped them on the floor before I came, so...
You could even have the chair.
Yeah, if I can't find it tonight, I'll bring you a new one for next week. So, sorry about that,
I think we're mostly full house, which is good because, you know, we have the president here. Oh, the president's here. I'm gonna wait for David to show. I forgot to. I just decided to wear a suit today and it turned out really well.
Did you really forget?
No.
You sometimes wear suits. $606 in case space. But it's for
Good evening, everyone. So we'll get started. Secretary Brown, if you could please take attendance.
Representative DeBaz. Representative Gallo. Representative Huffman. Representative Sabe. Representative Fitch. Representative Ratliff.
President voting.
Representative Razavi. Representative Tran.
President voting.
Representative Asan.
President voting.
Representative Vaughn.
President and voting.
Representative Cunningham. Representative Ha. Representative Shui. Representative Heck. Representative Haight. Representative Sevier. Representative McHenry.
President voting.
Representative Ladelpha.
President voting.
Representative Butcher. Representative Wetterston. Representative Komeyer. Representative Brelson. Representative Lambert. Representative Lindell.
President voting.
Representative Liu. Representative Tingley. Representative Cornelius. Representative Ruska. Representative Watts.
President voting.
Representative Feaster. Representative Payne. Representative Stump. Representative Shaw. Representative Alvarado. Representative Toomey. Representative Gladys. Representative Rangaswamy. Representative Ridgway.
President voting.
Representative Mahmood. Parliamentarian Smith.
Present.
Treasurer Williams. Treasurer Schloff. Speaker McKee.
Present.
Vice President Dooner. Vice President Cruz. Vice President Cummins.
President voting.
Vice President Shaw. Vice President Hale.
President voting.
President Agarwal.
Okay, if you could please rise for the pledge. Okay, and with that, we will move into our guest speaker presentation for the night. We are very honored to welcome President Snyder with us this evening. As a quick reminder, please make sure all laptops are closed and cell phones are off for all guest speakers. And with that, I will hand things over to President Agarwal.
Hello, GA. As Speaker McKee mentioned, our guest speaker for tonight is President Snyder. And President Snyder generally attends our meeting at least once a year. And I can definitely say it's a meeting I look forward to. We're really honored that President Snyder takes the time to address our assembly personally, and I think we are very delighted to have you here tonight. And the President will be giving us an update on items such as the Student Center, an update on accomplishments from the year and what we can look forward to in the future, and then there will be a time for some questions. If we do not get to your question, as always, you can email me and I will definitely pass it on to her. So without further ado, President Snyder.
I don't have a lot of prepared remarks. I will say a few things, but I like to spend most of the time taking questions and listening to comments. I do want to start by introducing my Chief of Staff, Jennifer Simperman. She joined me in November, and she was at the Cleveland Foundation right before she came to me. But before that, she was a business reporter at the Plain Dealer. In fact, covered the closure of the steel mills, among other things, where her byline was very prominent. So we are very lucky to have her with us. And as I said, she joined us at the beginning of November and, gosh, has had to hit the ground running. So I'm glad to have her with us. Let me start by saying the accomplishment that is probably most exciting this year is the groundbreaking for the Student Center. So those of you who are coming back in the fall, who are not graduating, will see a construction site. And while I know there's some inconvenience in that, it is never good to be at a place where nothing is happening and there aren't any construction fences or orange barrels, because it means that things aren't changing. So we will have a new construction site on part of Freiberger Field, and actually a fair amount of it will be taken up during the construction period. It won't be as open to you. But when the building opens, we're hoping by the time school starts in 2014, we hope everyone will think it's worth it. So I hope you've taken the time to see the plans. We had the model of Blue Bash, and at the State of the University speech that I gave to students, I brought the plans and Vice President Steve Campbell with me. So we're really excited about that. We are going to do a special sort of celebration of the groundbreaking as part of Springfest. And President Agrawal is meeting with our Vice President for University Relations, Laura Kalafatis, to plan that event, which will be part of Springfest the same day as the Hudson Relays. Another thing I wanted to be sure to mention was the crime response. We have just added on Monday a third Safe Ride vehicle. This is designed to cut the waiting times down, because it's so important that we not have students losing patience and deciding to walk alone late at night. I know we've said it before, I've said it before, others have said it before, but we understand that students get impatient, so we went ahead and added another car that will be deployed for the rest of the semester and again next year. So it is that important, keeping you safe. So we don't want anything to happen, but we're hoping to keep a target response time of in the neighborhood of 10 minutes. So please wait. It is so much more important for you to be safe than for you to get somewhere a little more quickly. So we ask you to be a little patient, and we're trying to make the waiting times get smaller. And we'll step up marketing too of Safe Ride with some new outreach efforts to make sure that students continue to understand how important it is to take advantage of that service. So we hope you will. And we've got a lot of other things going. We've invested in a variety of things. I'm really proud of the progress we've made with international outreach and the new programs for students, the opening of the International Center in Tomlinson Hall. The Provost's office has invested heavily in student advising and mentoring, done some nice things in the Kelvin Smith Library that our new director is excited about and that students have been involved in. And especially on the technology front, upgrading technology-enhanced classrooms and making sure you have the tools you need to be able to do the work that is your best work. So with that, I will just open it up to questions, comments. Oh, and by the way, we're in the middle of a fundraising campaign. We haven't kept that a secret. And I should tell you that the week before last, we passed $700 million toward our goal of $1 billion. So you won't see all the results of that quickly, except for the Student Center, which you will see quickly, because that's a shorter-term gift where the money will come in soon. But many of those gifts will be in the form of endowments for scholarships and other things that students in the future will see the benefit of. But we're excited to reach that goal. So we've still got a ways to go, but $700 million is pretty impressive. So questions, comments for me, and I'll try not to overstay my welcome. Well, this has never happened before, Colleen.
I have one.
It can be as short as you want it.
So I was wondering, has there been any progression in discussion for the Twing Center and what its sort of purpose on campus will be after the University Center opens?
So that's a very good question. And yes, we have had discussion. There are plans for Twing It will stay open for right now. Some of the things that are in there will be moving to the Student Center, including the student government offices, some other student organizations as well. The LGBT Center will be moving there, and the Inamori Ethics Center, which is actually in Crawford right now, in the basement is the wrong word, in the ground level of Crawford, will be moving there too. But we do have plans for Twing. In the very long run, we have a master plan that ultimately calls for the demolition of the atrium area. Apparently, there are architects who think it's not aesthetically pleasing because it doesn't mix with the two older buildings that it connects. We also are interested in giving greater visibility from the student center and things on the Mather Quad over to the other part of the campus, and that will give us much better sight line. So some years down the road, and it won't happen when you're here and it won't happen when I'm here, but some years down the road, someday we probably will get rid of that atrium and just keep the two historic buildings. The one was the old Excelsior Club and the other one Hitchcock Hall.
I was looking at some stuff for CASE, and I had stumbled upon the endowment page. But I was wondering how the university uses its endowment, and like what will it go towards?
So gifts to the endowment, most of them are what we call restricted. The donor decides what it's going to go for, and we have to come to agreement with the donor. So we have endowed scholarship funds, we have endowed faculty positions. So when you see the Kent Smith Professor of Engineering, that came from an endowment that was set up, in that case, a number of years ago. And we have some that are more recent. And those gifts then go into the endowment, and the return on the endowment, the income, is used then to support the scholarship. So it spins off money that then goes to a student or to a faculty member to support their work, or to a program. So there can be endowments to support programs as well. And there are also gifts to support buildings, although most of those take the form of a cash gift rather than endowment. Sometimes there will be an endowment to support a building going forward, though. So a variety of purposes, the donor gets to say, but we come to agreement with the donor. And then it's our responsibility to make sure the money's being used in the way that the donor intends and the way that we've agreed to use it. So, and our endowment's about, we took a bit of a hit during the downturn, but about $1.5 billion, a little more now. Hi.
Hey, I'm just wondering, I guess because a lot of students were over at the temple just this past weekend for Greek 3. How are the plans for that coming along? I haven't heard much about it in the last few months, and I was just curious if
so
things
the
are
plans,
still progressing.
The plans are really amazing, but the project has gotten a lot more complex than we originally thought. We knew the building had significant deferred maintenance challenges, so it needs almost everything from an infrastructure standpoint, roof, wiring, plumbing. I mean, everything was built in 1924, so it's all really old. We ultimately, with the architect that was hired through the architect selection process, and included an undergraduate student and a graduate student, and they were both from one of the three departments actually, we had a faculty member from music, so one student was from theater and one student was from dance. And they selected the outside architect who's taken the lead on the project. And one of the things that the lead architect and his team discovered in working on the project and trying to design the plans is that the 1957 addition to the building was really not worth saving. It would cost us more to try to preserve that. Architecturally, it wasn't significant at all. And so the parts we will be preserving are the parts that were built in 1924 and just thereafter. So all the original parts, but the 1957 edition ultimately will come down and be rebuilt. So it gives us an opportunity to actually expand the size. So it will be more than 100,000 square feet. And it will include theater. We have right now Eldred Theater, which seats fewer than 200 people. So this theater will seat 350. But it will be able to be broken up into different groups of seating. So the main orchestra level will seat something less than 200 people. There'll be a parterre underneath a balcony, and each one of those can be used in addition to the main orchestra level, and we can add on seating so that students who are attracting an audience of 200 don't have to feel that we'll close off the rest. They don't feel that they're playing to to a somewhat empty house, which is important for morale. So that theater space will also be a very high-quality theater. It will have a full fly space, like any professional theater will have. So we have to add on significantly up above the theater space in order to do that. And we're actually turning the theater completely around from where the one that's there now is positioned. That was part of the 1957 edition. It will include rehearsal space for dance and theater, and in the main rehearsal rooms for both of those departments, the room will be exactly the same size as the floor of the stage in the theater. So they will be able to block out everything they need to in those two rehearsal spaces. Those will be at the north end of the building, and they'll be all glass. We will have the music library and a computer lab there. We call it the Mac lab because in the arts, the preference is toward the Apple side of things. But there will be a computer lab, faculty offices, and rooms for student conferences and classrooms. In addition to the main theater, we'll have a black box theater, a laboratory theater, which will have flexible seating but can seat up to 125 people. So for students who write their own productions, doing things with little scenery, you don't need the fly space and a smaller venue, that will be there. We're gonna have a cafe in there, you gotta have food. And then the sanctuary will be turned into the main music venue, and that will be a wonderful concert venue. We've been working with the acoustician who worked on the renovation of Severance Hall. The acoustics in there are good for a voice, for somebody speaking, but not good for musical presentation. So they're doing a number of things that will improve the acoustics in there. And it will also have what we call a thrust stage, a stage that will be able to be made as large as we need to make it to seat our orchestra with over 100 students, and as small as what they use for High Holy Day services or for a single lecture when we have a guest speaker on campus. So it will seat as few as probably about 1,000 and as many as probably something like 1,400 or so at its largest. And it will be a great venue. And then the chapel will become a recital hall for smaller concerts. It's being turned sideways too, in order to bring the audience closer to the performers. So that'll seat in the neighborhood of 100 people. Yes.
My question is regarding, I guess, tuition, and I mean, it's been going up. It's been going
Yes.
up everywhere, and it's a reality that a lot of us have to face. Are there any sort of, I guess, efficiency audits or things that we could sort of look at to see, trying to get the most value and impact of every dollar that is spent? Is there anything done in that nature, or is there any way for me as a student to sort of get a little closer look on how each of my dollars are spent, kind of deal?
So we put budget materials in a general sense online every year, and you can see them with a case identifier. So you have to have basically an email address at case.edu, and you can take a look at that. Then we also have a cyclical, I don't know if audit's the right word, but it kind of is the right word, a cyclical review of the major cost centers. And we've now done 2 of them. The first one we did was in purchasing, because that's an area where it's a first target when you do those things. So we are in the middle of an effort that is already bringing some cost savings, although most of those are going into the budgets of the schools, not centrally, but we think they're benefiting all of you to make sure that we're bundling our purchasing in the most efficient ways, especially the bulk things we buy, like printers, toner, paper, that sort of thing. We use a lot of that kind of thing on the campus. And the second one was actually of student affairs. And that's just been done, and we're still in the throes of implementing that. We haven't started on the implementation process yet. And we do at least one of those every year with a major cost center, and every major cost center will be scheduled for a cyclical review every probably 5 to 7 years, depending on how quickly we get through all of these. We want to make sure we do them well. And of course, it is a challenge with the rise in tuition, and I know the provost came and talked to students, and some of the members from USG were actually there and talked about some of the investments we've made in technology and international outreach and advising and other things that matter to students, upgrades to the library and so forth. And it is a continuing process, and it is a challenge. And great facilities also, as we're building a new student center, we're going to have to budget maintenance for that. So those things, as they come online, it doesn't make it any cheaper, and I know it's a difficult message. The other thing I would say is that we have seen an increased need for need-based financial aid for students. We have more families who are facing challenges with unemployment or underemployment, with mom or dad or both in some cases. And that's been a real challenge for us to try to meet that need. And it's been growing, and we expect that that's not going to drop off. And as long as we keep our commitment to keep the doors open here for students who are very talented, very smart, but whose families couldn't possibly pay our tuition, we've got to meet that need. And it's a hard thing to do. And we don't have as many endowment dollars, which is why scholarships are a key target of the campaign and the fundraising effort. So it's a good question. Yes?
So I guess a more general question, looking ahead, what is the next issue you would like to see improved or resolved within our university?
Oh, the list is so long. Right now, the first goal is to make sure we do a successful capital campaign. And it may not seem that important from your perspective, but Case Western Reserve hasn't done a capital campaign since the one that ran from 1989 to 1994. Somebody you probably never even heard of, President Pitta, was here then. And we haven't had one since that time. It's way too long to go without a capital campaign. And most of our peers in the AAU have had at least one capital campaign and sometimes two. And that it puts burdens on our finances that we weren't adding to the endowment during those years. It's a little bit like saving for retirement, so I'll give you my advice now. When you get that first job, be sure to be putting away for retirement from the very first day. And when you change jobs, don't cash out, roll it over, because you can never get it back. And you can't really make up for the time. And it's also a little bit like saving for college, or I'll give you another analogy. It's a little bit like dieting. You can't do anything about what's already happened. You got to start from where you are. And that's what we've done with the capital campaign. So I think that's probably the most important thing. But we have lots of ambitions for the university, and we're going to be in the stage this coming year of renewing and revising our strategic plan, because it was intended to go for 5 years through 2013. And one of the important questions we have actually for students that I had talked to Divya about this and said I wanted to pose, so if you're here next year, we'd like to engage you in the conversation, is about student housing. And I lived in the Village at 115. I loved it, for 6 months. It was a great place, and I think it's a fantastic facility. We've got to look at our other student housing, and we will have to make a very important choice before we move forward with any plans in that regard, and that is whether to have all students housed on the North Campus, which is what our original master space plan called for. That was done in 2005, which was before I came, or whether there is enough interest in preserving housing on the South Campus that we need to come up with a plan that keeps the two locations but improves the quality, either by tearing some down and replacing it or by renovating some of it, depending on the condition of what's currently there. So that's a serious question we have. It's a major undertaking, and having great student housing is going to be, I think, really important for our ability to recruit students in the future. I see the students who come through and look at the Village at 115, and they think that's a really great place. I think a short-term challenge for us is continuing to do a great job with placement help, supporting students, whether they want to go to graduate school or professional school, or whether they're looking for jobs. And the economy has presented challenges, but we've seen an uptick. So in the fall, the job fair, we had a huge uptick in employers, and we hope that continues and that you are starting to see that as you're looking for jobs. But that is a hugely important responsibility we have to make sure we give you all the support we can so that you get launched in a good way, whether it's into the job market or into a graduate or professional program. So those are some of the things. There are also a lot of things around our academic programs too that are really important, that might be more specifically important to one school or another school. Yes?
In the short term, what are the current plans for the recently vacated space of the University Bookstore in Twing Center?
So we've had already many requests for that, and we're still in the process of evaluating those. There will be somebody moving in there soon, relatively soon, but the space people are still looking at that to make sure that in the short term we can do the right things and use the space in the best way we can. Do you have a proposal?
No, I was just wondering what the current top choices would be for that.
Yeah, I don't even know what all the requests are because not all of them have come directly to me. But the minute space frees up on our campus, my experience is that we get plenty of takers. So we have to figure out the best use and try to meet everybody's needs in the best way we can. But every time there's new space, that's the first question I always get asked. And I've gotten some emails and other people have too, so I don't have all the information to be able to give you. But the people who are responsible for allocating our space are in the process of looking at all the requests we got for that space. I didn't think that was such a prime location, but, but apparently it's in high demand. Hi, yes.
So the Student Life Committee recently conducted a survey to learn about student opinions on smoking on
Yes,
campus.
I was very anxious to see the results of that.
Oh, well, if you have any questions, I got them.
I have seen, I actually, President Agrawal shared the summary with me, which was extremely helpful. I'm very interested in that because, of course, we get questions and comments from medical experts who tell us that college students overall in the United States leave us smoking at a higher rate than they come to us. So we have more seniors leaving us smoking than freshmen who joined us. That's a huge problem. And so we have to think about what to do about that. And so I was interested in knowing how you all felt about the designated smoking areas, about the possibility of going smoke-free at some point. So I was very interested in the results of that survey, and I am familiar with it.
Well, you sort of led into my question. We learned a lot about what students think, but we don't know too much about what the university thinks. So I was wondering if the university does have any long-term goals on smoking or community health in general.
So we have very important goals about wellness, and we will be moving forward with more aggressive wellness goals for our faculty and staff. We think it's important that we make sure that we're encouraging the things that will keep people healthy, but we feel the same way for the students. And it's always a challenge, smoking in particular is a difficult thing to address. There are some campuses that have gone smoke-free and some that have gone the route that we have so far, and that is to have the designated smoking areas. So it was useful to hear from all of you, and we'll be taking that and coming back to you in the fall with some ideas about what we might do with the feedback you gave us, because we have thought a lot about it. It is very difficult, I will tell you, and having met with USG presidents over the course of 5 years, to have the kind of enforcement that some students want of the designated smoking areas. I simply cannot justify having our security or law enforcement people focus on that when your safety has to be our first concern. And we have to look at safety not just on the campus, but in what we call the buffer areas around the campus where we know you all go. So that really takes up their full time and energy, and we've been trying to invest in additional officers to be able to do that better. So figuring out how we can have, if we're going to continue with designated smoking areas, how we can do those well without trying to have police officers or even security officers that need to be focused on safety, dealing with this, and I mean bodily safety as in crimes that can be committed that can cause serious harm, as opposed to smoking, which does cause harm but longer term damage. So we have to weigh those things, and your input was very helpful. Also, knowing what you thought about the way those were maintained was very useful too. So I told President Agrawal that I thought you did a great job of coming up with the most important questions that gave us the best feedback that will help us come back to you with some ideas about what to do next year and in the future. So we are concerned about it. I wish the data told a different story, that more students left us not smoking because we educated you so well that you decided not to do that. Okay. All right, last question, I think, because I know you have other business to do. Yes.
Thanks. So question, I guess a lot of our initiatives, when it comes down to it, they rely on there not being enough money in the budgets of the departments that we'd like some improvement in. Perhaps I was wondering what the outlook is in the near term for the budgets of CASE and the departments, if it's positive or negative.
We've been on a positive trajectory. Of course, anything can change, and we've had some challenges. Healthcare costs and other things and energy costs have been things that we can't directly control. We can influence, but we can't directly control. and the rising cost of equipment and things like that. Construction has actually been that's been good. And so I'm glad that we'll be able to do a construction project while prices are still on the more competitive side of that. But I think the outlook has been positive. We've finished with an increasing surplus, not a big enough surplus, according to the agencies that rate our bonds, our credit rating. They think we need to have a bigger surplus given the size of our budget. And so we will continue to work toward improving that, because someday we want to go out and borrow money to be able to build the next housing project. Those projects will be of a size that they cannot be done the way we've done the student center. We've done that with gifts completely. And the other projects that we're doing, the field house and the Maltz Performing Arts Center, will also be built 100% with philanthropy. But you can't do a housing project of the size that we'd be talking about at that level. So we'll need to go back to the bond market. So we have to balance the need to fund things that are good for you now and the need to be able to someday be able to borrow enough money to be able to redo our housing completely for students, whether it is on the North Campus altogether or whether we decide to split it based on what students who are here today want now. We have to think about that, and that's a real challenge. But financially, things have been improving every year, and it is still difficult. I mean, higher education is just, it's in a very difficult financial place right now, and we feel the pressure of raising tuition very acutely. It's a very difficult decision to make each and every year. And so it's not good, but the outlook is basically positive, and we've been on a strictly positive trajectory for the last 5 years, and I'm proud of that. It's not been easy, and it's not been without pain, too. I mean, there's some things we've had to cut that we didn't want to, but that have helped us maintain a healthier financial picture. One of the problems with not being healthy financially is that donors don't want to give if you are running a deficit, because they say, I don't want to give to dig you out of your hole. You got yourself into that, get yourselves out of it. Even though it wasn't, even though it may not be personally me or some dean, they still don't want to give. So we've been able to improve giving pretty dramatically as a result of getting our budget into the black. And we expect that of all of the student organizations too. We don't expect you to run a deficit either, do we, Colleen? So we're trying to act with the same responsibility that we ask you to do too when you're running a student organization and spending money from the student fees that are allocated through our process. We want to be just as responsible. So thank you. It's a great question. Thank you all very much. It's always fun to be here. Great questions. And if you have more, as President Agrawal said, she meets with me frequently, so she will pass them on to me. Thank you very much. Oh, one last quick thing. I will be sponsoring again the USG team for the Relay for Life. So I hope many of you will be doing it.
Okay. If you do have any other questions, please do send them to President Agrawal, and we can get a response for you. So with that, we are going to add in one little thing. We are going to have our update from the SSC now on Recyclemania. So, Mr. Moss?
Are there any leftover agendas anywhere?
Hello, everyone. Oops, sorry. So I have Recyclemania, half of the competition. We're towards the end now. We have about 2 weeks left. Well, actually, after this week, we'll have 1 week left. So 1 week left to report, that is. So one thing we're trying to work on, again, as you can see, there's only 5 weeks up here. The whole competition is 8 weeks long. We're trying to improve how quickly we get our data. The campus, as you guys probably know, is pretty big. So we have to collect all of the garbage and all of the recycled materials from all parts of campus, collect them, count them, weigh them, and then get them to either the landfill or the recycling center. So as you can see, we have up here I have the waste data as compared to our recycling data. And as you can see, we are certainly wasting a lot more than we recycle. I believe the tonnage is around 60.
can't really see it from here. And then we're about averaging 6 tons of recycling a week, which is about a factor of 10. So that is pretty impressive. One thing that we have been getting better at over the past few years is actually becoming more accurate at reporting how much we send to the landfill and how much we recycle. So, and that's a good thing because it's nice to know what exactly we're throwing away, how much exactly we're throwing away, and how much we're recycling. But it is coming out to show that we are, in fact, throwing away more than we thought compared to how much we're recycling. The graph on the bottom is diversion rate, which is instead of total amount of how much we're throwing away, it's how much we're diverting to recycling instead of wasting. And as you can see, that's been increasing as Recyclemania has gone on, which is always nice to see. But we're still trying to improve our recycling levels because having 7 tons of recycling a week compared to 60 tons of waste is pretty impressive and not in a good way. But that's what we are working on right now. We will, at the end of March, we will have completed the competition, and then we can roll out the total numbers for all the weeks and then the 8 weeks in general. So if anyone has any questions about Recyclemania, I can try to answer them. Yes,
Vice President Shaw?
How is it that we're wasting more than recycling? Like, what is it that you can exactly like put your finger on we can do to fix this?
Do you mean we as like the USG as a student organization, or we as students?
As the students, as the university.
Okay. First of all, I guess it would be to recycle anything that can be recycled from an individual level. You might think that, you know, as an individual student, say you use like, I don't know, one water bottle a week, recyclable water bottle, plastic water bottle, whether it's, you know, it could be like water, orange juice, soda, anything like that. If you are using one a day, or maybe, one a day for a 7-day week, you throw that away, you don't recycle it. That's, maybe not a big deal. That's 7 bottles. That's, not even a pound of plastic, basically. But if, we've got 6,000 undergraduate students, roughly, and then we have, a much larger population of graduate students, which also contribute to our waste. That's a lot of bottles, and that adds up to, that's how we get 60 tons of waste, for example. So recycling everything that can be recycled is one thing. Probably what comes second to that is making sure students don't throw away things into recycling bins. Because if food waste gets into a recycling bin, then the recycling bin, because it's a health hazard, has to be disposed of. And that can be an entire bin of recyclable material that then has to be thrown away. So those are probably the 2 major things. Secondly, like I said, we have a much larger graduate student population than we do undergrad, and at least the Student Sustainability Council is much more effective at communicating with undergraduates than it is with graduates, at least right now. So we are working on that as well to try to further educate, and maybe not even just educate, but communicate with more students at the university. So those are probably the 2 biggest things: educating on what can be recycled and how to properly recycle, and where those bins are, and to not, hopefully, to avoid spoilage or throwing away recyclable materials.
Representative Relson?
On a specific note, are the Grabbit containers, are those recyclable?
We recycle all plastics 1 through 7, but they're not labeled. That's a good question.
A whole lot of waste every day.
Yeah.
Like kids get tossing those,
Do you mean like the plastic sandwich containers and things like that?
like the plastic entree containers that all of it comes in. If they made an effort to like make those recyclable, or maybe easy for us to clean them out and then recycle them instead of throwing them away, I feel like that would be.
The way we interact with Grabbit, and because that's run by Bon Appetit, and I guess the materials they use to package their foods has been more difficult than we thought it would be. But I can check on that, but I'm pretty sure those plastic containers are recyclable. But one thing that certainly helps is to not use the plastic bags that they give too. One thing we tried to eliminate was offering plastic bags at all, because we thought they were doing it because they wanted to, but it turns out that students are the main reason why plastic bags are given out, because they actually remove plastic bags themselves, and students were not pleased. So that's why they brought them back. That's one way to help, though it's not, again, not directly related to your question. But if it's the hard, dense plastic, it should be recyclable. But I can check on that and report back.
Representative Huffman?
I was just going to say, they're number 5, so if you wash them out, you can recycle them.
There you go.
But it's kind of hard to do if you have like sauces and
It's
stuff.
hard to do, especially if you're on campus, like if
Yeah.
you're on the qual all day. But generally, they don't have to
But
be.
you can.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but they don't have to be spotless. They just have to be, clean enough. They can't have like, a good portion of the meal in them because then it might ruin the whole recycling container. But they don't have to be spotless, but clean, relatively clean enough. So.
Vice President Cruz?
I'm just curious. I noticed a lot of new labeling on the recycling receptacles in the residence hall showed up in the last couple months. Is that with you guys, like at your suggestion, or is that just case housing
It's
finally doing what they're supposed to do?
It's kind of both, I guess, might be the best response. We there are now RHA green teams, which are our chair Elena Statue is one of them for Southside, and they are now becoming into their full effectiveness, or they're working on it, so to speak. So it's more of a cooperative effort, but that is housing's prerogative. So we're trying to motivate them to do that because we noticed that wasn't really happening. So labeling is also a big important thing that we're trying to work on throughout the whole campus. So I'm glad that's noticeable. Mm-hmm. If anyone frequents PBL, their labeling is really nice. So we're working on trying to have that sort of labeling. Well, like they have really clear pictures on what can be in the recycle bins, and then a nice picture of a landfill for the trash, because that's unfortunately where it goes.
Okay, one last quick question, Parliamentarian Smith.
Are you guys doing any data analysis? Because on these graphs here, I see week 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is like awesome. I'm like, what happened on week 4? And then what happened
Yes.
on week 5? Are you guys like looking at events on campus that are going on and seeing like, why are we recycling more all of a sudden? And then decide, whatever.
That's a really good question, and thankfully now we have our director of sustainability, Stephanie Corbett, and a new recycling manager, Aaron Koller. So we have staff that are now directly dedicated to doing things like that. And right now, like I said, we're still trying to, and by we I mean it's mainly them, but we're still trying to help them have more effective data reporting because we're still lagging behind each week. It's really hard to get all the data, especially when it comes through different collection points across campus. Usually it all gets funneled through facility services, but sometimes we have to wait for the recycling centers because we don't process it on campus to send us back the data. So we are planning on doing more, and again, the sustainability department and our recycling manager are planning on doing more data analysis to figure out why exactly that was happening, which is a good thing again, but we're not exactly sure why yet. We will, of course, after recycling unit ends, hopefully have more data and more reasons as to why, but it's a good question and we're trying to figure out why as well.
Okay, thank you. If anybody else has any other questions for the SSC or about Recyclemania, you can send them along to President Agarwal, and she will forward them to the appropriate people.
Thanks so much.
Okay, and with that, we'll move into old business. With that, we'll move into old business. Are there any nominations for Arts and Sciences representative? Representative Sabe?
Eno Germani.
Any other nominations? Okay. Representative Vaughn? Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, is there any other old business before the Assembly tonight? Representative Ranagoswamy.
I move to reintroduce Bill B 21-24.
Okay. Vice President Shaw is going to have some updates for us real fast, and then we'll move into discussion.
Okay, so, this proposed budget has changed a lot from last week. Just gonna go over a couple things. So first of all, I just wanted you guys to pay attention to USG morale went back down to 800. So, hello, USG reps, we still have $1,000 this semester. Try not to let that number go down, so use the money that you were given as reps. Next thing, Student Sustainability Council, they're, usually ad hoc groups receive $500, but we've upped that because SSC does the Farm Harvest Festival and other events that they've in the past requested co-sponsorships for, and we felt to let this committee be a little bit more independent, and gave them an extra 500, so they have 1,000 total. Also, external has gone up, it's 87%. Then we have our operating and services. So at the bottom where it says sources of income, the number where I'm getting our total, semester total from, is from the sources of income, which is the student activities fee income I've estimated to be 152,000. And then estimated internal rollover, this is internal, like within USG, our organization, and then estimated external rollover being for the rollover of student organizations. And then the liabilities, meaning the organizations that keep their own, that have a fundraised account that we keep track of, is written on the bottom. I am open to points.
Any points of clarification for Vice President Shaw? President Agarwal.
The comments you made about $800 being a new number, did you mean that for representative programming going down from 1,000 to 800?
Yes. What,
Okay.
did I say USG
You said
Morale?
USG Morale.
Oops, my bad.
So that was,
I apologize. Yes, it's representative programming, not USG Morale.
Representative Shaw.
Out of how much is allotted for the representatives, how much of that has been used so far?
This semester, we still have the full 1,000. Yes.
Treasurer Williams.
Just a quick question. On the rolling funding line item, you have the committee listed as General Assembly?
Yes, because I listed the committees as whoever makes the final decision. So even though Finance Committee, we do the, we make sure that it's up to par, it's satisfactory, and then if GA wants to, poke at the request more, then they can. But it's the Finance Committee's job to make sure that everything is correct.
Treasurer Williams.
So then wouldn't mass funding also have to be listed as General Assembly because they also have the final say on that?
We could. The reason why it's finance, though, is because when it passes in GA, they don't know item by item what every organization receives. They only know how much total that one organization receives. So, for example, if Cognitive Science Student Association receives $1,000, GA doesn't know the breakdown unless they went to mass funding. And that's the Finance Committee's job.
Vice President Cruz.
Kind of a similar question. I know the Pizza Olympics Committee was kind of like its own thing this year, and it has PR listed as the committee, I guess, that makes the final decision, but I know, I was not consulted at all, and, it wasn't brought up in my committee at all, the funding for that. So I'm just wondering if it should be listed under PR or no, because it wasn't really at all related to PR other than PRing.
Right, that's under question because as of recently, it's been moved to a committee, and if anyone wants to make a suggestion, should it go to an ad hoc or anything like that?
President Agarwal.
Yeah, I would make a suggestion to just move that as executive to be consistent with the other ad hoc committees being under the executive line, because the Pizza Olympics subcommittee does work very closely with exec as a whole to carry out that event.
Okay, we can make that change.
Any other clarification points for Vice President Shaw? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, we shall move into discussion. We'll set 10 minutes for discussion to begin with. Are there any points for discussion on Bill B 21-24 or the appendix? Representative Toomey.
Second.
Is there any dissent to calling the question? Vice President Junior.
So President Snyder just said we have to balance our budget, but our income is 222,000 and our expenses are 223,000. Is that okay?
Oh. I did not see that. Damn. That's right.
So this actually, the estimated income is around, I've rounded it. I have made a guess that there might be a little bit more, I could always guess that the external rollover is a little bit more. We're not exactly sure. So at this point, it's safe if it's just a little bit over, but not by too much. So, I mean, as long as it's not like, when I came up with the number, I wanted to get as close to 222,000 as I could. So at this point, it's okay if it's a little bit over, but if it said 101% instead, you know, that would be iffy.
Okay.
I would not recommend that. I would recommend tweaking the numbers, Jason. Yeah, your income should match your expenses. I just think it would look better. So just make a tweak. Recommend which line you want tweaking, and just add it in.
To move us along, though, we did have a call to question. So unless that is withdrawn, we will have to move into the vote to resolve that.
Yeah, I'll withdraw that.
Okay. So we're back in discussion then. Are there any? We have Vice President Shaw just a moment on a recommendation, but is there any other discussion points? President Agarwal.
So I would make a suggestion then a suggestion I'd make is add to the external rollover, $2,000.
Okay.
To make that 62 and then balance it with the semester total.
Okay.
Okay. Would anybody like to motion for that? Representative Toomey?
I move to increase the estimated external rollover line item to $62,000 and adjust the total sources of income to reflect that. Yeah.
Seconded. Is there any dissent to making that change? Okay. Seeing none. Representative Huffman?
I just have a question. I'm sorry to bring this up in GA if it's really obvious to everyone, and maybe it's because I'm a newer member, but can you just clarify what's going on right now with this? Like why that estimate is changing by $2,000 suddenly? Like other than to make it look good, I guess.
Vice President Shaw?
Okay, so we want to make sure that the numbers, like in case that we don't go over or we don't go under, we want to make sure that the numbers match up. That way if we had passed this budget and groups used up all of their money, we would be down by about 1,000. So we want to make sure that if we pass this, and if the groups use up, like if every line item is used up for what it was used, what it was dedicated to, then we want to make sure that it all matches up.
To also add on to that, one thing with external rollover is it's sort of a floating number. It's hard to nail down exactly until all of the budgets are reviewed in about July, sometime over the summer. So it's a little bit of a guess number. I think Colleen or Vice President Shaw or Treasurer Williams could expand upon that point, but it has a little bit of play and estimation in it. So, Treasurer Williams?
Actually, this is just a quick question on that. Jaisal, in the event that our external rollover or whatever is not as much as we're expecting, which I don't think that'll happen, but let's just say it does, how much money are we planning to allocate to mass funding this weekend or over the total? Because I would hate to have to take away money from groups next year if like our, or whatever, like if we come in under, if our income is less.
Can I actually discuss that during my board reports?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's probably relevant now because we're discussing the bill.
Okay, so this weekend when we do mass funding, I'm estimating that I have received a little over 100 requests for all the groups that were recognized, so I'm estimating about 150,000, so we have 20,000 left for student groups to receive during appeals. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, so in other words, what you're saying is that we are planning on allocating that full $170,000.
Yes.
Okay, so then what what happens? Let's say that we, instead of having $60,000 in external rollover, we only have $50,000, or which would pretty much, if we were to say that the mass funding amount for student groups was the last to go, that basically depletes our entire internal budget. So.
I'll defer that to Colleen because I've never experienced that.
Okay.
Colleen?
As soon as the budget closes, which for you guys, since you have a rollover account, okay, normal budgets, first of all, I want to address the balance. You can't pass a budget that's not balanced. So that was a very good pick. Tom picking that up was very smart. Why there's wiggle room, and if you guys don't even understand that, can you imagine how the students who might question your budget? The wiggle room is the uncertainty of what the groups will not spend, okay? You guys, if all you had to control was that, I don't know, what is it? Internal and operating, it's like 20 grand. If that was all you had to control, this would be a cakewalk. But there's so much uncertainty out there. Every year in December and in July, I do an analysis, and I take the real university ledgers and I subtract all the liabilities to that. That would mean any disbursement that hadn't been completed by Suzanne to reimburse a student. It would be all the fundraise monies that the groups have in their accounts, any sports club support that you have given, and we clean up the accounts. We just clean it up. We subtract that from the amount that's in the real university ledger sheet, and that gives us a balance. In exec on Thursday, there was an analysis of, as of March 19th, X amount of dollars was in that account. The question raised was, will the organizations spend what's remaining, minus the amount that they supposedly have in their fundraiser? So this is never an exact science, and there is never a way to give you an exact figure, because you're dealing with budgets that don't meet your cycle. You're passing the budget now, but the budget is not primed for review until July, so it's all guesswork. This is based on some experiences. Colin asked, what happens if there's a deficit? The first place you will look is your internal. It's the first place, and you'll make cuts. I've been here, as you know, a long time, and only once in those 20-some years has there had to be a deficit in the internal account. There will be a rollover. I wish I could tell you that I know that like I know my name's Colleen, but I can't do that. I wish I could, but I can't. So what you're passing takes risk, but it's a good risk because you're giving it to the student orgs. So that's the best answer I can give. Does anybody have any question? This is really hard, I know. Okay.
Okay, so we're wrapping up discussion on the motion to amend the external rollover amount to $62,000. Vice President Shaw? Okay, real fast, is there a motion to go with exactly that number as opposed to 62,000? Representative Rangaswamy?
I move to make the estimated external rollover $61,029.
Is there a second? There is. Okay. Any further discussion on changing the external rollover amount? Representative Zhu? Granted. Okay. Seeing no other points of discussion, that a motion passes. Okay. So is there any other points for discussion on the bill or its appendix? We have about a minute left for discussion. Representative Rangaswamy.
Question?
Is there any dissent to ending discussion on Bill B 21-24? Okay, seeing none, get your eye clickers ready. You may begin voting. Please vote A, yes, in favor of passing Bill B 21-24 and the budget for the fall semester. B, no, opposed, and C, D, and E to abstain. Representative Lindell, is it a point of order? Otherwise, or a point of personal privilege?
Yes.
Grant. Congratulations, everyone. Bill B 21-24 passes, and we have a budget for the fall. Okay. That concludes all the old business. Is there any new business before the assembly this evening? Vice President Cruz.
Move to introduce Bill B 21-25.
Okay. Is there a speaker in the pro? Vice President Shaw.
Okay, so I know we usually don't do this because it's mass funding time, but I was approached by a student who wanted to start the group shadowing case by case, and this is purely a shadowing group for any pre-health, pre-dent students. And this group, I know that they've been working on getting recognized for the past month or two, and they happened, due to miscommunication, they were not able to make their submission in on time. So we went over this during Finance Committee, and they told us, they gave us all the information, they told us everything, and why they deserve to be recognized as of now. If we recognize them, this does not make them eligible for mass funding, though they can apply for rolling funding next semester. That's the only penalty that they have, because they didn't apply before mass funding. They cannot apply for they are not eligible for mass funding this for next semester. So they can do rolling funding, but that's all. I'm open to points.
Any clarification questions? Vice President Dooner.
Are the people shadowing, are they prospective students?
No, this is case students. It's an organization. What do you mean by
I don't
prospective
understand
students?
you said shadowing.
So this,
Are they shadowing professionally in
yes.
hospitals and things?
So
Okay.
this is like students, undergraduates, just like us, that are shadowing doctors at UH, Rainbow Babies, at the dental school, and such.
Follow up. What would they use their money for?
I'm assuming as of now, different shadowing events, maybe a doctor and shadowing student faculty dinner or something like that. Yeah.
President Agarwal.
And another point to add is that I've also met with this group, and they're very well aware of the situation and the consequence of not being able to participate in mass funding, and they're okay with it. They're okay with the conditions we have brought forth, and that's why we have allowed this to go through.
Any other clarification questions? Treasurer Williams? Okay, clarification questions for Vice President Shaw. Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a speaker in the con for Bill B 21-25? Okay, with that, we'll move into discussion. I will set 5 minutes for discussion to begin. Are there any points for discussion? Treasurer Williams.
Sorry, Divya, I just wanted to clarify something you said. You said they were well aware they weren't eligible for mass funding. I was actually talking with one of their group people today, and she said they've been working very hard on their mass funding, and they were anxious to submit it. So, I guess.
She can answer my. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking about something else. Yes, so they only have 3 days to submit their mass funding. Once they get recognized, if they get recognized by us, they only have 3 days to submit their mass funding on time. Yes.
So they are
But
eligible.
Yes, they are eligible for mass funding. They're not, this semester, since rolling funding is over, they're not eligible for rolling funding.
Okay.
Okay, I had mixed that up. Excuse me. Pardon.
Representative Ranagoswamy?
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm still a little confused. All right, let me make sure I get this straight. They are eligible for mass funding this semester, but not rolling. But next semester, they're eligible to apply for mass and rolling. That's how it's, okay, thank you.
Vice President Hale?
Call to previous question.
So any dissent to closing discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the vote. Please vote A, yes, in favor of passing Bill B 21-25, B, no, opposed, and C, D, or E to abstain.
One more, I know you're out there. 25 seconds.
Was it Representative Linda? Maybe. Okay, and with that, Bill B 21-25 passes. So any other new business? Representative Ridgway. Granted. Representative Shaw.
I move to introduce Bill B 21-26.
Okay, is there a speaker in the pro? Representative Toomey.
All right, so this is the last rolling funding bill of the semester. We finished giving away all of the rolling funding money we had left. So you can see the appendix there. I'm open to points here.
Are there any clarification points for the speaker? Representative Feaster.
Yeah, just on something you said. So if I'm understanding this correctly, with this, all of our rolling funding is gone. So you used every bit that we had left on this?
Yes.
Is that true? Okay, thanks.
Any other clarification questions for the speaker? Vice President Dooner?
Of inquiry. So is the craziest item ever asked for money now 3 fake dog poops?
That I know of, yes.
Okay. Good.
Treasurer Williams?
I still believe the Shetland pony takes it. I'm sorry.
That wasn't during my time.
Okay, any other clarification points for the speaker? Vice President Shaw.
So I understand that a lot of these, I'm not sure how involved you are with other organizations, but I understand that a lot of these events have been really good ideas, and I wish that the committee was able to fund them, but due to us having only a certain amount left, we could only fund the organizations that gave us the most information, because not all organizations could present, and if we had any questions or concerns, we would have not been able to contact them in time to have all our rolling funding gone. So I understand that some of these events, groups will probably not like that they weren't able to be funded, but we did the best that we can with what information that we could use.
Representative Fitch?
Can you say the reason behind giving $3,000 to the one club instead of splitting it up to the other ones?
These clubs that had the large amounts, they gave very good presentations of why they needed the money, and these are larger one-time events as opposed to smaller repeated events or things that we believed clubs didn't necessarily need at this time that they could request in mass funding for the fall, because I know several of these are limited time offers for certain groups to purchase purchase items. Sorry.
Representative Payne?
I was just gonna say, if you're referring particularly to the fencing, we looked at their mass funding and we gave them like very low amounts, and we decided that it was like a worthy thing that they needed, and it was like a long-term purchase, and that's really where it was best used, like right now.
Treasurer Sloth?
Okay, just to clarify this even more, what Laura said was correct. We did look at mass funding from the semester, and it was around $800. But the main thing is when we were making these decisions, the deal that the fencing club got on these pads, on these, I guess, mats for meets and practices, they were getting 3 mats for the price of 1. And this was like one-time deal. They're indestructible, as like said by the team, and they're made of steel or aluminum, sorry. And also we felt that the fencing club deserved something that would make their club better and more safer for their students, because their students have sprained ankles and all of these things that they had to take care of this semester, whereas the other items were for events that could definitely be used from fundraising activities and whatnot.
Any other clarification questions? We'll have time for discussion points in just a moment. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Representative Toomey. Is there a speaker in the con? Seeing none, we will move into discussion. We'll set 5 minutes for discussion. Are there any points to begin with? Vice President Hale?
Call to previous question.
Second.
Was there any dissent to closing discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the vote. Please vote now. A is yes in favor of passing Bill B 21-26. B is no opposed, and C abstains, or D or E. Okay, with that, Bill B 21-26 passes. Is there any other new business? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into committee reports. President Ackerwell?
Okay, so first and foremost, I really want to thank you guys for how our kind of etiquette and behavior during President Snyder's visit. The questions were absolutely excellent. They were awesome. They covered such a broad ground. Some things that I hadn't even thought about, and you guys touched upon it. It was great. I really enjoyed that, so thank you. And you all look fabulous, by the way. Looking fine. Just gonna say that. Just gonna throw that out there. Okay, also, you see some, the executive board discussed a lot of things, a lot of points on Thursday, and you can see some of our decisions there. One point of clarification I'd like to make during the, under the SEC budget allocations, for the additional 5.5% that went to senior week, that was not just USG. Every SEC board, every organization on the SEC did put forth 0.5%, but USG did, at the discretion of myself and Jaisal at that meeting, did propose to just alone cover the 0.1% that Twing Study Over was requesting. So just to clarify, it wasn't, we did not give ourselves only 0.5% to senior week. Every SEC board gave 0.5% to senior week. If you want more information about SEC budget allocations, you can come and ask myself, Jaisal, anytime. These meetings are also open unless the chair tells you that they are closed. So SEC meetings are open meetings that you are allowed to attend. And just an update on SLIG. We are having our final meeting for SLIG after GA tonight, where we've already gone through half of the proposals. It's been so difficult to go over them because they're all fabulous. And I think if Treasurer Williams will correct me, we have proposals that are summing to 122,000, something like that.
Yes, the total amount of proposals subtracting one that was a little bit of a joke was $122,000.
So we have to, as you can see, we have very difficult decisions to make because we only have $25,000 to give out, but those decisions will be made this evening. So with that, I'm open to points.
Colleen?
Divya, is the 0.1% just for the fall, or is it
Yes,
a
correct, right?
total change in percentage for USG for the remainder of the?
Colin Williams made that request, so.
Wait, sorry. This
is-
was, the 0.1% was for this semester, if I was.
Oh, sorry, right, so, wait, yes. The 0.1% is they asked for an increase for this semester to complete Twing Study Over for this semester.
Okay, so USG's percentage allocation for next year does not change?
It will change for senior week, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
Okay,
it.
but that's it? It's
That's
not
it.
gonna change for Twing?
Yeah.
Or for,
Correct.
thanks.
Any other points for President Agrawal? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Do we have a student life report? Vice President Hale?
It's on paper.
Any points for Vice President Hale? Okay. Seeing none, we don't have a report from Finance Committee or the Treasurers, so academic, Jaisal?
I know this is like totally against law, but I have a lot to explain. Forgive me for not having a report. Mass funding, crazy, hectic, you know the drill. Anyways, currently the student organization handbook is being updated by the whole committee. As you know, I've been going through emails and I've realized that our handbook is quickly, like very quickly getting out of date. We've got like We've got new SLIG proposals that are coming up that might help student groups, and they need to know about this. We're trying to be more transparent to student groups. We've got new PR methods that these students need to be aware of. As you know, the student organization handbook it tells student organizations everything they need to know to succeed, to get funding, to transition, everything they need to know. And as a finance committee, it is our job to make these things transparent to these organizations. So anyone who wants to, I am actually going to make a compilation of all the updates that the committee has made last week and present it out this coming Friday, or I'll send it out. I'm sending out an email to them this tonight. They'll receive it on Friday. If they want to make any extra changes, they can. Anyone can attend this meeting. We need to get this handbook done and ready to go for mass funding, because this is how what we're going to use to help us, decide what we're going to fund groups. Speaking of that, we have a new rolling funding method to reduce rollover, and this new method will be implemented next year. I will speak more on that next week. Also, congrats to our new VP, unfortunately and unfairly, who won't be able to bless our presence during mass funding, which is this weekend, 10 a.m. We will be having brunch, and we will be having Qdoba for lunch. I cannot emphasize how much the Finance Committee would appreciate if you could help us come and attend Saturday, this mass funding big event. We have over 100 groups, as I mentioned before, with $170,000 that we need to split up. Rolling funding, absolutely gone. We've already gone over that. Potentially, appeals will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then again, disbursements. Okay, I know. This girl has already come up with 2 methods. Third time's a charm. I have come up with a new method, and I will present that next week. I am open to points.
Any points for Vice President Shaw? President Agrawal.
Is the speaker aware that with the help that we got at last semester's mass funding, all the people that came to help out, our generally 2-day mass funding process was cut down to 1 day? And second, is the speaker aware that mass funding is a lot of fun?
Yes.
Fun.
Might I even add that it wasn't even 1 day that we cut it down to. I think it was like 8 hours. We cut it down to 8 hours. A 2-day thing to 8 hours. If the more people we have at mass funding on Saturday, 10 a.m., note that, write that down, 10 a.m., the more people we have, the faster we'll get through mass funding. And I assure you, it will be tons of fun.
Then are there points for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Do the treasurers have a report?
So kind of piggybacking off of the mass funding thing, I know this week is Greek week, I know everybody's crazy, and I know that day there's Saturday, basically everything's going on. Even if you can just come for 5 or 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, that'd probably be like an hour probably, but come for an hour or two in between Greek week events when you're, just come in, it really helps. We always have something to do. You don't have to have any funding experience whatsoever. I actually don't have questions this week. Life got kind of a little bit crazy, but I have one for Treasurer Schloff, sorry. Hey, Treasurer Schloff, if I'm interested in becoming treasurer, do I have to have been on the Finance Committee before?
Absolutely not.
And so if I want to maybe run for treasurer for next year, what should I do?
Come to our office hours.
Fantastic.
Are there any points for the treasurers? Okay, seeing none. Vice President Cummins for Academic Affairs.
Okay, so besides there on my report, that was pretty much just a summary of the Faculty Senate this week. Other thing I wanted to let you guys know about was the Graduate Student Senate is really into bringing back Research Showcase, which is a campus-wide research endeavor where grad students get to display their hard work. And it's supposed to involve, university money and business money from around Cleveland and elsewhere. And so it's really a cool thing. It kind of ran out of money a couple years ago, and it was sort of an extravagant event that kind of became bigger than it was, useful, I guess. And so they're trying to bring it back, and just let you know that, you know, I'm on trying to make sure that, you know, undergraduates' interests are still upheld, I guess. I've talked to a couple of different people, and, you know, intersections have been working really, really well the last couple of years, and we want to make sure that undergraduates still are very important in this research endeavor, and our interests are still, you know, involved. So I don't know the points after that.
Any points for the speaker? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Vice President Cummings. We have no report from the Public Relations Committee. Great. Information Technology Committee, Vice President Dooner.
Hey, real fast, two things. One thing, we're working with Finance Committee to try to make the website a little bit more intuitive, easier to use. It's kind of bad right now. Say what? The finance team, I guess. Okay. I guess they're different. Sorry anyone who's offended by that. And second thing, word on the street is that the cable TV has been entirely fixed. Is this something you guys have noticed? I don't live on campus, so I can't notice it myself. Okay, keep an eye out. If the signal drops out for a while, then yell at me and I'll yell at people for you. I'm open to points.
I have one. Did they figure out exactly what the problem was, or did it just sort of
So
fix itself?
the problem was, so there's one cable feed that comes into Crawford, and then it's split a bunch of places and it goes to all the dorms. Now, they thought that it was happening some point close to Crawford because it was happening everywhere, this short intermittent outage. But the interesting thing is, when it gets to each building, it's also split into each cable feed for every room. And so it was just and all of those splitters are the same piece of equipment. So that piece of equipment was bad. So so it was happening everywhere, but at different times. So it was actually kind of an interesting problem-solving process they went through to nail down exactly where along the line it was broken. It was broken in a really weird spot. You'd expect it to be somewhere central if it was happening everywhere, but yeah, apparently it's just broken everywhere. And they replaced the equipment, and I think everything's good now.
Secretary Brown?
Do we know what the cause of the Great Monday Blackout was?
I'm really curious. Interestingly, I'm working on a research project, which for First Energy. So I'm going down there on Friday. I'm gonna try to prod around in their files and see if I can discover anything.
Are there any other points for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Parliamentarian? Okay. Myself, my office hours are listed, so we'll just move right along. Do we have any caucus reports tonight? Representative McHenry.
I just want the engineering caucus to meet with me for about 5 to 10 minutes after GA, because we're making a headway on first-year advisors. Yay!
Any other caucus reports? Okay. Seeing none, do we have an advisor's report, Colleen?
No report.
Oh. Okay. Moving into open forum. Are there any points for open forum discussion tonight? Do we have anything on the feedback report to report?
There was a request to update the browser version on the computers throughout the school, considering people are having issues opening PDFs apparently, and then also Student Life is looking at regards to the Juniper basketball court and the alarm that goes off at night.
Treasurer Williams?
In the next coming couple weeks, we're going to start to look at Collegiate Link and start to talk about what we can improve for Collegiate Link for next year, because we can always improve. So definitely not tonight, but probably 2 weeks from now or so, we're going to have probably an open forum about Collegiate Link, just talking about it. So if you haven't already, please go on there and spend 20 minutes looking around Collegiate Link, clicking on some different things, student orgs you're a part of, and just try using it out so you can bring some feedback back to here. So that'd be fantastic. Thanks.
Any other open forum discussion points? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? Vice President Shaw.
Mass funding this weekend in the USG office at 10 a.m. Be there.
Representative Toomey.
Happy Greek Week, everyone. Good luck with all your events.
Colleen.
This Friday is the Share the Vision Spring Community, or I'm sorry, Open Forum, or what's it called, Spring Forum. Is Patrick here? Do you want to talk a little bit about it more specifically?
Yeah, the Share the Vision is having an open forum about community and what the different aspects of community are at CASE and how we can potentially improve them or how they are. We're actually looking for students to help facilitate discussions at tables, so if you want to get involved with that, just come talk to me. It's during community hour too, sorry.
One of the premises for the community hour, which I just really wanted to just share for a minute, was that, or not for this session, was that students embrace all of the wonderful small communities that you're a part of. And so being a part of those, how does that help us define the greater picture in terms of traditions and celebrations and how you identify with the institution as a whole? So I would really love if you could join us and help to explore that topic.
Representative Ruska.
USNA is having its bake sale to benefit the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation April 2nd and 3rd, which is Monday and Tuesday of next week in the ground floor of the nursing school if you're in the area, or if you'd like to bake and donate something. We're always looking for some interesting creations, so let me or Nicole know. Thanks.
Representative Ranagoswamy.
On April 2nd, Lork Tech and Kids Against Hunger are holding a huge networking event in the Twing Ballroom from 5:30 to 8 p.m. If any of you are interested, there's going to be many CEOs. A lot of the sustainability directors will be there. Stephanie Corbett will be there speaking. Ian Charnas, remember Ian? He will be there speaking. He's awesome. If you want to see Ian again, definitely stop by. I love that man. He spoke to us during our retreat this semester. And it's going to be a huge event in terms of potential to just meet a lot of different cool people. 5:30 to 8 p.m. There will be food. An executive chef is cooking via the Jolly Scholar. So that will be really interesting. And executive chefs make really good food. I'm just saying. If you have any questions regarding that, if you're interested, just stop by me real quick. Talk to me real quick. But the food is going through the Jolly Scholar and everything, and it's going to be a blast.
Representative Ladelfa.
On April 2nd, next Monday, we're having the Celebrity Bake Sale, so that's exciting. If you want to help out, send me an email. We're looking for volunteers from 9 to 4. So if you just like hour shifts or whatever you can, so let me know. Thanks.
Vice President Cummins.
This week until I think Sunday is the Cleveland International Film Festival downtown at Tower City. So if you want to support independent film and creative endeavors like that, I would encourage you to go. They're pretty much offered anytime, all day, at like 6 different theaters. So Tower City, yep.
Vice President Shaw.
Question for Steve. I like to bake when I'm really stressed, and mass funding can be stressful. So can I be a celebrity and bake stuff too? Sweet.
President Agrawal.
Yeah, some more points on Relay for Life. Yes, actually Gary Bagat, Representative Bagat, was a key player in the Celebrity Bake Sale. And I really do encourage you to ask your professors, ask anybody, staff members, to participate in the Celebrity Bake Sale. This is USG's one of our best Relay for Life fundraisers. We get a lot of donations from this, and it's a lot of fun and delicious, not to mention. Also, we are beefing up our fundraising activities this year for Relay for Life. In addition to the Celebrity Bake Sale, we've got a cupcake truck that is coming to Relay. So yeah, that's fundraising endeavor 2 that's coming at Relay for Life. And then endeavor number 3, and mad props to Representative Ladelfa and Representative Gallo for planning our midnight kickball tournament that's to take place at Relay. It's called Save Second Base, I believe. And so USG will be sponsoring this kickball tournament at Relay for Life. So I would encourage organizations, fraternities, sororities to participate in what's going to be an awesome tournament. Finally, just also wanted to encourage you to join our Relay team. And you don't have to actually sign up online. And it's kind of a misconception that you can only sign up for one team and you can never participate in any other Relay team ever in the world. You can. And so I will be passing around a spreadsheet for walk times next meeting. And I encourage you to sign up for just an hour. We have an awesome team. It's a lot of fun. We want to have a really big USG presence that night. And we're a big family, and Relay is kind of one of our our best kind of ending events of the year, so I encourage you to come out. Lastly, and you guys thought I completely forgot about this, right? We had an election recently. Gee whiz. Some statistics about the election. I believe we had about 850 votes on campus, which is not too bad. We generally kind of circle around that number. 850 votes. In our referendum, two of our suggestions for amendments had failed. This was regards to the GPA requirement and the speaker having to attend all meetings. Unfortunately, the next speaker has to attend all caucus meetings. And then finally, we do have a new elected president. Mr. James Hale is going to be your president for your next assembly. And if you've seen the election results posted, a lot of our current members are also going to be on the executive board again. I'm not trying to ignore you guys, but I'm not going to read them all out. Everyone's seen it already, I know. But I wanted to recognize the next president. So yeah, thank you all for participating in these elections. I know a lot of you are coming back. Almost all of you probably who are not graduating are coming back, which is great. So yeah, thank you.
I'll just tag onto that real fast. If you're interested in the appointed positions, make sure you're talking to the current holders of those offices. For internal development chair, which doesn't have a current holder, myself or Vice President Cruz would probably be some good people to talk to. So, Representative Toomey?
Two things that I forgot earlier. The weekend of April 14th, it's actually the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then midnight then. The Footlighters are putting on Kiss Me Kate. It's going to be a great show, and you should all watch it. Second thing is I'd like to plan a karaoke night, party, something for the end of the year for us. Who would be interested in that? Hands? Lots of people? Cool. If you have any ideas for that, let me know, and we can work on it. Thanks.
Okay, are there any other announcements this evening? Representative Shaw. Sorry.
Thank you. So I'd just like to announce that you guys might have seen this painted on the wall, that Delta Tau Delta's Caddyshack is coming up on April 14th, and so is the Macapellas final concert, so I'd love to see you guys at both of them.
Representative Ruska.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any dissent to adjourning? Seeing none, we're adjourned.